Assalamu alaikum. I'm Ashley Pearson Khan with World Hijab Day, and we are on another segment for our World Hijab Day Conference 2024. I'm so excited to be here today. This is one of my favorite days of the year, and I've got two amazing ladies here to talk about hijab and self-expression, navigating identity and fashion. So the first panelist I have with me is our lovely Shreen Mahmood. She is an award-winning philanthropist. She serves as the World Hijab Day Ambassador for UK, and she is also on the board of directors for World Hijab Day. She is renowned for organizing women's events of empowerment, things surrounding mental health, family values. She's a motivational speaker. She speaks at different institutions. She is also a Peace Ambassador, Best Community Initiative Finalist, and recipient of Unsung Heroine Award by SheAwards UK. Shreen also arranges spiritual tours in Jerusalem, mashallah. We also have Lisa Vogl, former international fashion photographer and co-founder of the first U.S. department store Modest brand. She's been featured in global publications and TV outlets. She's received congressional honors and a House resolution for recognizing American Muslim contributions. Lisa is a mother of four based in Sterling, Virginia, and advocates against domestic violence globally. So, mashallah, two amazing ladies. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I think you guys are muted. Let me unmute you.
Yep.
There you go.
Having us.
No worries. Hopefully you're both doing well.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for joining me. I was going to say good afternoon, but I know Shreen, we're in a big difference of time zone here. But thank you so much for being here. So I want to dive right in. Are you guys ready?
Let's go. Bismillah.
Okay, so feel free to just jump in and answer whoever wants to answer first. So I want to know, do you think being fashionable while wearing hijab attracts others to wear the hijab?
I mean, actually, I don't want to speak over if you're about to speak. I genuinely think it does. And I will do a quick follow-up on this answer. When I started Verona Collection with Emma, co-founder, many years ago, I actually did it because I wanted other women to feel confident about who they are and feel proud to wear their hijab and that understand that there are options. You don't have, I'm kind of being contradictory. You don't have to wear all black, but that's what I'm wearing. Like, you can be colorful, you can be fashionable, but still modest at the same time and still use it as a means of self-expression. So like, for instance, like I'm kind of sporty. I wear, gym clothes, but I can still be covered up and in that type of style all day long. However, I do think that it has gone too far with the modest fashion movement, and we have really lost track of what it actually means to be modest in the realm of self-identity and trying to express oneself. This is not to be hijab shaming because we've dealt enough about that. But I'm saying collectively as a whole, I do think that we have lost our way. And it became in a response of the movement, but we have lost the purpose of hijab while trying to be fashionable at the same time. And I think we need to check ourselves as a community and say, okay, let's dial it back. We can still be fashionable, but let's try to keep it modest at the same time.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I think sometimes we have to take a step back and remember why we're wearing the hijab and kind of renew those intentions. I think that's a really good thing to do. What about you, Shreen? Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, for sure, it's definitely a difficult one to navigate because, we often get accused by perhaps the male counterparts about being too fashionable or, should you be wearing that? Should you not be wearing that? I think the term they love to use is tabaruj and, things like this. I think it is important for us as Muslim women to remember that we are ambassadors for our faith, and faith is personal. Our fashion sense is personal. I was saying to you guys off air just before, this is probably my fashion is something that I don't really normally talk about because I just don't, it's not something I focus on. But I did make an effort, and I went, and got my Palestinian jacket that I bought from Jerusalem on my previous trip. And so, what I suppose fashion is important. It is important, and the confidence that you wear your hijab with and what you wear with, it definitely attracts, women and the youth. It almost empowers people to understand that actually wearing hijab, wearing something fashionable can be important. In encouraging others to wear the hijab as well. It doesn't have to be, something that we have to be unfashionable with either. It's not something that we have to be frumpy with. I think, both sides can be extreme. So I think the balanced approach is really important. Like I love wearing blazers. Although, sometimes my friends can be like, oh, you're always in a blazer, whether it's a Sunday or whether it's a Monday, I'll be in a blazer. So I think fashion is important, but the balance is also important. It can't be, extreme one way and extreme the other way. It should be a balanced approach within the restrictions of our faith.
Well said, Shreen. I agree with you. So my next question, I think, Lisa, you kind of touched on this a little bit when you answered the first question, so feel free to elaborate, and Shreen jump in as well. How do fashion and hijab allow you to express yourself? And maybe you think how other people express themselves with both?
Questions for me? I did kind of answer it a little bit, but I think whether we like it or not, we all have this preconceived notion of when someone is dressed a certain way, that must be how they are. So fashion, whether we choose it or not, is a means of expression, whether it's intentional or not intentional. And I think, I going back to myself, like I am very intentional about what I wear, and it's a means of expression. It's not just of the fashion piece that a means to express yourself. We have to remind ourselves that the hijab is a means to express to the world and declare to the world that we're Muslim and we're proud to be Muslim. So it is actually like intentionally expressing our identity to everybody. And yeah, like I think with even Muslim fashion, we can kind of understand and have our own interpretation of meaning of modesty, and how we choose to wear it. It can kind of tell the world who we are. Hopefully I did that question justice.
I think you
I tried to
did.
take the same answer and elaborate it.
Yes. Yes, very well said. Shreen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, again, it is, like you said, fashion is a statement, and I chose to wear this for a very particular reason. Of course, with everything that's going on, just like yourself, Ashley, what you're wearing as well. Fashion can be a very important way of expressing our thoughts, our faith. What I love about hijab is, wearing hijab without us actually speaking. Everybody recognizes us as women of faith, as a Muslim woman. So it's almost like this might just be a cloth to some. It's a hijab to us, and it means la ilaha illallahu Muhammadur Rasulullah. So it's definitely something important for us to consider when we're talking about navigating identity and fashion, and how strong we are within our faith, how strong we are wearing hijab, how confident we can be. And it's a struggle. It's not something easy, especially in the rise of Islamophobia. I feel in the rise of anti-hijab sentiments, what's happening in Europe, what's happening in France, what's happening in Quebec, with various hijab bans around the world. I suppose it is an attack on our choice to wear hijab. So I think it's definitely something that no matter what, especially with the hashtag this year, hashtag veiled in strength, we have to show up in strength in our hijabs, despite what we may face.
That's very true. I think, for me, it's different as a convert in some ways because it's there's the whole lifestyle change. So I feel like you have to figure out and navigate like changing your wardrobe if you're going to wear hijab, or you want to not wear the hijab but still dress modestly and things like that. So I feel like my self-expression through like my clothes and my hijab have evolved and changed over time because of that. So it's really interesting to see that. So that kind of transitions us into another question that I have is, how do you think fashion and hijab will continue to evolve together?
I do think because, at the start of when I joined into the modest fashion movement in the US, it really was not as popular as it is today. Now it's like very normal, mashallah. That's a very good thing. 10, 12 years ago, there weren't all these massive brands and different options that we had. It just wasn't as accessible, at least in the US. I think that we are a little bit farther behind than the UK, and obviously it's everywhere in the Middle East, but for Western countries in the US, it's really kind of relatively it's been here for 10, 12 years. But I think when we started out, it still kept that modesty, and then it went to an extreme on both ends. We have, the complete hijab shamers, and then we have those that I do think the modesty it needs to be dialed back a little bit. But because both extremes have occurred, I do think that we will find that balance, and I think we're getting there. And I think Sister Shreen has already touched on it. The balance is so important, and that's really what our religion teaches anyways, that we should be balanced in all of our approach in Islam, whether it's fashion or something else within Islam. And I think we're going to come back to it and then have that perfect balance. And that for me is a personal journey. I'd say that is exactly what happened with me too. Like, I went very extreme with my hijab, and then I realized no, as long as I keep my modesty, I don't have to lose the way I want to dress. And I found my personal balance. And I think as a community, that's what we're going to head as well. Oh, you're on mute. At least I can't hear you. Shreen, can you hear her?
She's on mute.
Okay. So I wanted to make
sure.
Oh,
I'm on mute.
Yes, you are.
I was like, let me unmute Shreen so she can talk. I didn't realize I was muted. Shreen, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I think we're getting there. When we're talking about identity, I think I keep going back to the fact that, just as faith is personal, fashion sense is definitely personal. We've touched in previous topics as well, talking about, the judgmental side of things, the differences that have happened over even, say, maybe the past 10, 20 years. I don't want to divulge how old I am or how young I am, but things change constantly. And it's important for us to remember that, everybody has their own struggles. And it's important for us to support each other. And what I love about World Hijab Day, I suppose, is the fact that we can be a very positive sisterhood. And there's so many positive stories when people are sharing, their hijab stories, or how they chose to wear, when they started to wear the hijab even. And we take empowerment from that. We take encouragement from that. And I think this is something important when we're talking about navigating identity and fashion, is just sharing positive stories. I love the fact that there are so many modest fashion brands now, that it's actually heavily influenced mainstream fashion shops as well. You've got, all sorts happening. Of course, I'd always be the first person to support a local Muslim run business in the first place, but it's nice to see that mainstream are now more accepting of hijab, whereas longer shirts, long sleeves, no low necks and things like that is changing. Even in, I think, swimwear, you can go and pick up something modest, not quite burkini level, but it's good to see that in sports, in workplace environments, in For example, here in the UK, we've got Muslim women judges, police officers who are now also wearing the hijab. So I think it's very important for us to have things like this, have discussion panels like this, have initiatives like this, with World Hijab Day. And I think World Hijab Day, without being too biased, we've been able to do a lot of work around the world globally to push this as well.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up, both of you brought up the multiple businesses that now exist. There's a lot of small businesses, but also the hijab and modest clothing have been brought into mainstream, because there have been so many times where I'll be traveling somewhere and, I've got to choose what color hijabs I want to take, how many I want to take. And because I think when I get somewhere, there may not be a place, if something happens to my hijab, I can't just go buy another one from a store all the time, depending on where I'm at. You have to order them online. And so even when I first became Muslim, I was researching, what do I get? I didn't know what styles to get. And it would have been helpful to be able to go somewhere in person and do that. And I remember, I'll never forget the first time I walked into a store that had abayas and hijabs. And I was out of state because I used to live in the US. And it was just, it was like a kid in a candy store. I just thought it was the most amazing thing. And now I've also seen people online who have small businesses on Instagram, for example. They have a website and they're just using Instagram to kind of promote their business. Now they have brick and mortar stores. They have actual physical stores. And I think that's so amazing to see. So I'm glad that, there's more and more all the time. It's so, great to see that. So as fashion and hijab and things continue to progress, do either one of you think that fashion has changed the meaning of hijab? I feel like that's a deep question.
I don't think fashion has changed the meaning of hijab. I think we as a community have misused it. And I might get tons of hate for this, but to me, it's about speaking the truth. That we have to, I've already, kind of mentioned it, like we have to remember why we're wearing it. And I'm absolutely not a fan of publicly shaming individuals on Instagram. That I just think is absolutely horrible. Like I am still anti, sending individual ridiculous comments online. I mean, as a whole, collectively. So this is not to single out anybody, my viewpoint. But I think we have to remind ourselves why we wear it. And it's good to remind other sisters the purpose of it.
For sure. And I suppose for me to mention something here is, sometimes are we using the hijab as a token? Potentially, I've seen a lot of influencers, I won't name names, but I've seen a lot of influencers who will start wearing the hijab and they'll speak about their journey and they'll, connect with a lot of Muslim sisters through that journey. And then within months of that, setting up a business to sell hijabs, and then, a few months after setting up a business, and then they'll remove the hijab. And I think we really need to check ourselves when we are looking up to sisters online sometimes. Business is business, fashion is fashion, and hijab is hijab. It shouldn't change. Whether your next door neighbor, whether your family members, whether an influencer wears hijab or takes the hijab off, we shouldn't be so loosely connected to our faith and our decisions, our journeys, that we can be easily influenced like this. So I think I'd always want to just mention that that we need to be careful. So when I say business is business and fashion is fashion, that's in its own lane. And when we're talking about hijab, it shouldn't change. The meaning shouldn't change for us, but it can be different for all of us as well. So for me, when I started wearing hijab, it was after the 9/11, and I went to a predominantly white school. And for me, I had a dream that it was a bit of a scary dream, and I felt as if God was speaking to me and that I needed to start wearing the hijab. And when I woke up and I thought about it in a little bit more of a deeper way, I thought, no, I don't want the Muslim community to be labeled as terrorists. I don't want, my friends and the people I go to school with to think that the Muslims are bad people, or, that's why I just had to wear the hijab. So it was crazy. It was a little bit very it was crazy. I went in and I started to wear the hijab, and a lot of people asked me questions at that point about why we're who. And I said, look, I've always been Muslim. I am Muslim. I'm proud to be Muslim, and the hijab represents one aspect of my faith, and I choose to express that now physically by wearing the hijab. So I think it's very important for us to remember that hijab is hijab, and it's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we shouldn't allow it to change the meaning of hijab. Yes, people choose to wear it in different ways. Yes, it can become a bit of a fashion statement. I've previously worked on so many different projects where it's male dominated, and this is within the Muslim community, but they will have a friendly hijabi on the project just to tick a box, so we need to be aware of how we hold ourselves, how we present ourselves, how within the Muslim community we're perceived, and how we, represent our faith and being Muslim women, and strong Muslim women at that. So, yeah, basically.
SubhanAllah, your story is just, I feel like that's such a blessing to have that dream that Allah is telling you, it's time, put on the hijab. So that's amazing. It kind of gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh. So I have one more question for you, ladies. So, and I feel like, Lisa, you've touched a little bit on this about how much to wear, how little to wear. There's always a fine line. So a lot of people often times think that, sometimes you're dressed too modestly, and then there's a fine line of being not modest enough. And I've often got questioned about that by Muslims and non-Muslims, like what is too much, what is too little. And I don't think anyone's ever going to fully agree, right? So how can someone be stylish while adhering to the rules of hijab? And I feel like it's such a little question because people have different views of the rules to hijab. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
I mean, we know the obvious, right? Where you're supposed to be covered to the wrist, the neck is supposed to be covered, the face is not mandatory. We are supposed to be in looser clothing. These are the physical aspects. And I've talked a lot about, like, as far as like coming back with our balance. But I would maybe elaborate that it's not necessarily so much just the physical part of the hijab as the way we are presenting ourselves. And I don't mean when people say, oh, hijab is in the heart, it's just in the heart. No, you still are supposed to cover. Like it is, in whether you choose to or not, that is your personal choice. And that is by no means mine or anybody else's right to dictate or comment on how you choose. What are you doing with your personal relationship with Allah? But we know that the rules are that you're supposed to cover your hair, the neck is supposed to be covered, in looser clothing. But I think when I say that we've gone too far, I wouldn't necessarily mean it's just about the physical fashion piece of how we're dressing. It's honestly how we're posing and how we are presenting ourselves that I think, we have to remind ourselves that is a part of hijab. It is a part of, being humble and modest in our demeanor, and not just the heart and physical part of the clothing. But that to me, I think, speaks more volume than anything.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I think for me too, like whenever I first started wearing hijab, it was such a huge transition for me because I was not only just wearing hijab, I had just become Muslim. So I'm still trying to understand what hijab was, right? I knew when I first took, I started because I took the World Hijab Day 30-day challenge, right? So I was doing my best to pick out for example, the tops in my closet that had longer sleeves, and sometimes the sleeves were a little bit shorter, but I was, doing my best. I didn't wear, like short dresses to work. I was wearing pants and things like that. And even before I took my Shahada, that 30 days, I was like, oh, like I need a few more scarves. And then I'd get, like maybe a new piece of clothing. And so then my wardrobe changed to where I was always wearing like jeans, for example, or pants. And then eventually now, like I wear a lot of skirts and dresses. So even not too long ago, my mom saw me wearing jeans. She's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you wear jeans in so long. But I still try to make sure they're nice and loose because I used to wear skinny jeans and they were tight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's always like a learning curve, and there's growth there, which is good, alhamdulillah. But thank you so much, Lisa. Shreen, I'm done now. I want you I want to hear your side.
I mean, again, I'm going to say when it comes to fashion and style and things, my friends will tell you, why on earth is Shreen talking right now? But honestly, I think from my perspective, style and fashion, there's so many quotes out there, cheesy cliches that, style is personal and, you have to wear it like confidence and, things like this. Again, can you be stylish? Yes, you can. Beauty is in the what's the quote again? Beauty
In the eye of the beholder.
Eye of the beholder. Right, exactly. So what is for me, that like what I'm wearing, I love it because it's Palestinian and it's smart, and I love black and gold. You can't go wrong with it. So for me, I'm good with it. Someone else might not like it, and I think it goes again with wearing the hijab. Where obviously we get anti-hijab sentiments. We get sort of that Islamophobia, verbal abuse, and backlash within perhaps even the workplaces and things like that. And I think it's important for us to remember, rather than focus on being stylish with it, is just being comfortable in what we wear. The hijab is there for us to sort of take away half of that problem, that actually we don't want to conform to societal norms of stylishness or beauty and things like that. And it's almost redefining what beauty is. So Muslims, Islamically, we choose to dress modestly, and that's key for us, and our beauty is in that. So alhamdulillah, we're very lucky to be of a faith that tries to take away, tries to navigate away from superficial sort of societal norms, that actually women need to be all glammed up and all glamorous all the time, 24/7, for them to be taken seriously. And whether sisters choose to wear niqab, or whether sisters choose to dress in a abaya, and however that is, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us to dress modestly and please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this obedience, I suppose, and just allow us to focus on the more important things, which is our humanitarian aid work. For me personally, I know Lisa's also part of humanitarian aid work. There's so much going on in the world right now that we should be focusing on. So I think style and fashion sometimes isn't the forefront of my mind, but it is for a lot of youth. It is for a lot of women who are starting with hijab. But I mean, if I had a personal message to share, it doesn't matter whether I'm on the borders of Turkey, Syria, whether we're on on the side of a mountain during the Morocco earthquakes. Alhamdulillah, I've never felt that hijab has made anything difficult for me. In fact, I love the fact that I wear hijab. I love the fact that I am a hijabi humanitarian on the front line of aid work, because people recognize me as Muslim, and a lot of the times, unfortunately, the disaster areas and the conflict zones that we travel to, it's a majority Muslims. So when sisters see me wearing hijab and know that I'm Muslim, they're able to connect with me on another level. They'll come and hold my hands, or they'll hug me, or they'll give me duas. And I think it's very important to remember that as we're expressing our faith, and as we're especially on the front line. Obviously, I'm going to be in my loose combats because you have to be practical with what you're wearing as well. Fashion has to be practical. So I'm wearing light colors, or I'm wearing baggy cargo pants or something like this. And, it allows us to do our work within our faith with the hijab on, and, still connect to our Muslim sisters, on that deep level, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, you made a really good point. There's so much going on in the world, and it's hard sometimes to focus on other things because people are suffering so much in our ummah in multiple countries, and it's devastating. And that's part of the reason organizations like World Hijab Day exist as well, because unfortunately, Muslims are attacked for a variety of reasons, and even World Hijab Day is here to lift up our ummah, right? To provide hope, and be there for our sisters no matter what they're going through. So inshallah, we can continue to do that. I really thank you both so much for joining me. If there's anything else you want to add, any comments, anything like we didn't talk about, and also make sure everyone knows how to find you on socials.
Nothing else I want to comment, and I'm not that active as far as posting, but it's Lisa M. Vogl, VOGL is my social.
Okay, guys. Well, you can follow me. Absolutely appreciate the followers at Just Shreen on Instagram, Snapchat, and I think I am on TikTok. Just about. But final words from me on identity and fashion. I think it's just I would absolutely love to see Muslim women be more confident within themselves. Whatever that takes. World Hijab Day is an absolute sisterhood, and we love to keep it, positive as ambassadors of our faith, as ambassadors of World Hijab Day. Somebody who's been involved with World Hijab Day for a number of years now, me and Ashley. I think it's important to both of us, to all of us, and that we connect on a deeper level, that we encourage each other, that any sort of negativity or any hostility we have towards certain organizations, that we drop all of those differences and we actually unite on what connects us. Yes, sometimes we can wear the hijab differently. Yes, we come from different cultures, different backgrounds, and different faiths. And sometimes, in the best of our intentions and all the work that goes on behind the scenes, we try and accommodate everyone who connects and engages with us. And we'd love to see more people engage and connect with us in future conferences. And remember, World Hijab Day is not just for the 1st of February, it's continuous work throughout the year. We are fundraising for World Hijab Day as well. And it's just very important for us to connect, I think, whether it's fashion, whether it's embracing diversity, whether it's all the other amazing topics that we've got going on today. Please do just connect with all of us, and keep in touch.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
All right, I'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of World Hijab Day.
Take care.
Okay.
And I just wanted to touch on one thing that Shreen mentioned before I exit the live as well. She mentioned that we are fundraising. We cannot continue to do the work that we do or grow without donations, as World Hijab Day is a nonprofit. So everyone who works behind the scenes, like Shreen, she's on the board. I work with World Hijab Day, our founder. Everyone does this voluntarily. No one gets paid. And so there's a lot of effort that goes into putting on conferences. And, like Shreen said, this isn't just February 1st. We do different events throughout the year. And you'll see those on our social media. So be sure to follow us on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, TikTok, everywhere, so that you can see these events, so you can see where the donations go, because they help us reach people across the globe. This is a global organization. So there are people who may be asleep right now. They're going to jump on later and watch this conference from the comfort of their home. It may not be live, but they're still part of World Hijab Day. And we've seen in past years, and inshallah it happens this year, throughout the month of February, our ambassadors continue to host World Hijab Day events. It's amazing to see. We'll be posting pictures and videos from that as well. So We just ask that you consider making a donation today. You can find the link on our social media platforms, for example, our Instagram bio. But in case you don't see that link, you can go to launchgood.com/WHD24. We are trying to raise $5,000. And if we do that, LaunchGood is going to match that $5,000. So subhanAllah, imagine what we could do with that, how many people we could reach. Because, for example, for just $10, we can reach 2,000 people. So imagine what we could do with $10,000 and the lives that we could change and the people that we could even help. So that would all be thanks to you. And donations are tax deductible as well. So always a bonus. So we have hit $1,000. Alhamdulillah, we've hit $1,000. So 4,000 to go. So tell your friends, share, and we've got another segment coming up. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for joining me. Assalamu alaikum.